Fine and Momo were vampire and human girls respectively who in a war-torn, divided world thought they could be besties. And even though humans were like Friday night pizzas to vampires, Momo was stupid enough to not have trust issues, and this might just ruin her. Fine was having a disturbing dream about her past. In this dream, a girl named Arya was seen dancing with her and having a good time before something tragic happened that ended up claiming Arya's life. After that, Fine immediately woke up with tears in her eyes. On a cold winter day, typical Call of Duty story mode setting, humans went on a mission to wipe out vampires and entered a building. A vampire dropped out of the sky like an in-game airdrop, wondering why humans wouldn't leave them alone, so he went Super Saiyan vampire mode and attacked. He took down a few humans and bit one until some soldiers came and held him down with a special light, weakening him. He still had some energy and wanted to get up before being sent to bite more people in Valhalla by a soldier with a special type of gun. The bitten human started to go beast mode, so they took him out too before he could take them out on a date to the afterlife. The humans then split into teams to search the place, and Momo went with her friend Mirena. Momo heard a noise in a room, and when she checked it out, she found a scared child vampire who offered her a music box. Boy probably wants to be a DJ when he grows up. To avoid attracting others with the noise, she knocked the box down, but when another vampire attacked her, her friend showed up and killed the attacking vampire. The child vampire, thinking outside the box, took a drug and transformed, then attacked Momo. She met a fork in the road while attempting to kill it, but a man immediately popped out and stuck that fork where it hurt, sending it back to Hotel Transylvania. The dude got steaming mad, telling her that the vampire would have entered a different kind of boss level if that drug had kicked in. The other COD players announced that the coast was clear, and he told them to gather all resources and begin heading back. Before he left, he smashed the little music box like the hopes and dreams of some people watching this video, classic party pooper vibes. After that, a flashback was shown, giving information on how the vampire homies showed up unannounced with a plague like COVID-19. Due to the abundance of blood, the vampires multiplied like Naruto's shadow clones and eventually overwhelmed humans due to their immortality and their vampire Sigma aura. The humans started to lose their territory like any gang that opposed the Grove Street gang when CJ started to stand on business. Survivors gathered in a small town and built a protective wall of light, creating the City of Light. To avoid attracting vampires, they banned music and culture that definitely wouldn't attract anybody. This situation led to the rise of two main groups in the conflict, the Central Forces and the Vampire Kingdom. In the town where Momo and Mirena were working, Mirena revealed she had taken the music box and she gave it to Momo, asking her to fix it so they could vibe to some vampire hits. Momo then learned that the commander-in-chief wanted to see her. When she reported in, her mother, Nobara, the commander, told Momo she was being reassigned to work in the chief executive office. It seems like that music box came with some good luck. Momo was okay with staying in her current job, but her mother explained that she was given a low-ranking job first because people wouldn't approve of a cadet getting an admin role right away. That would be like pay to win in Battle Royale games. Nobara mentioned that she had heard Momo hesitated to shoot a vampire, and when Momo tried to explain it was a child, her mother said that hesitation endangered her comrades. The city was on the brink of destruction, and humans were running out of resources, causing their lifespans to shorten. It was kill or be killed out there. If they didn't kill the vampires would kill them. Meanwhile, the vampires were chilling and having a great time at a ball. Fine danced with a girl, which annoyed some of the other vampires. After the dance, Fine stepped outside for some fresh air. Allegro approached and told her that he had heard the humans were planning a big invasion soon. Because of this, they were gathering forces like the Fourth Great Ninja War and planning a counterattack, and he wanted Fine to stand on business with them. However, Fine wasn't interested and said that if he destroyed everything beautiful in the world, there would be nothing left, not even a single Burger King in sight. Allegro guessed that Fine still wasn't drinking blood, and he sure was right, as she was probably on a diet now. As Fine was called back to the ball, Allegro left some bottles of blood for her, saying he wanted her to be her true self, and then left. The next day, during a human gathering, they revealed that they'd found a vampire lair in the northern mountains. The deputy commander thought they were rushing and doubted they'd succeed. Nobara showed the drug the vampires used, explaining that it boosted their physical abilities at the cost of their lives like some type of compound 5. She noted that nearly 100 vampires had already sent themselves to Jesus this way, indicating they were desperate enough to use such extreme tactics. After the meeting, Nobara suggested sending nukes to the vampire crib to end the war once and for all. The deputy commander mentioned he had heard that Nobara promoted her daughter to an admin role and praised Momo's performance in military training, which apparently didn't pay off when she was fighting a kid vampire. Nobara brushed off the flattery, asserting her authority, and acknowledged the deputy commander's work on a new weapon to combat vampires. However, she reminded him firmly that she was still the one calling the shots and that he should follow her lead. After work, Momo was chilling with Mirena and told her she had fixed the music box and would bring it the next day so they could vibe to the bangers in it together. Meanwhile, the vampires gathered near the human city. Fine decided to join Allegro, stating that she was looking for a place to send herself to Jesus.
Meanwhile,
the humans began their attack on the vampire lair. Meanwhile, Nobara discovered Momo listening to a music box and became furious, slapping Jack out of her box. Shocked, Momo grabbed the box and fled. At the same time, the humans fell into a deadly trap. Allegro then led the vampires in an attack on the city. Momo contacted Mirena, telling her she wanted to leave the city, but Mirena insisted there was nowhere else for them to live, and pleaded with Momo to stay with her. As the attack went down, the vampires used bombs to destroy the lights. Nobara took command and successfully halted the vampire advance. A vampire pleaded for mercy, but the humans said not this time, due to her actions that had resulted in the deaths of their friends and families. Fine attempted to intervene to save the vampire but was unsuccessful and ended up getting hurt. In a critical moment, a human dropped a grenade. Fine managed to summon her Call of Duty instincts and threw it away in time but was knocked down in the process. As she prepared to use a drug, Fine heard Momo humming and vibing to the tunes of the music box nearby. Quietly approaching, Fine overheard Momo crying, expressing her exhaustion with the world and desire to be alone. Upon noticing Fine, Momo told her to stay away, but Fine persisted and asked Momo to sing the song from the music box again like a private concert in the middle of a war.
Man, I'm dead.
Before they could reconcile, Mirena popped up and fired at Fine, allowing Momo to escape. More people and vampires appeared, and Momo ran toward Mirena for safety. A dying vampire used the drug and went beast mode. He attacked Mirena, and Fine tried to protect her, but the vampire still managed to seriously wound Mirena. In her final moments, Mirena apologized to Momo, knowing she wouldn't be able to hear the music box again. As Mirena passed away, Momo grabbed a gun and started shooting at the ugly-looking vampire. Fine warned her to stop, emphasizing that she couldn't kill it, but Momo refused to give up. Fine then grabbed Momo and flew away to save her from the vampire, but she was weakened and eventually fell. The vampire pursued them, but Nobara and other humans managed to trap it with light. Nobara saw her daughter nearby and worried that blasting away might harm Momo, but her priority was to eliminate the vampire. She ordered her men to shoot if the vampire made any aggressive move, unless it had moves like Jagger.
Meanwhile,
Fine asked Momo to come with her, acknowledging that Momo desired to leave the conflict behind. She warned Momo that the war would not end, as everyone would eventually go beast mode and become monsters. After a moment of hesitation, Momo decided to go with her. Just as they prepared to leave, the lights suddenly went out, a result of a human traitor, aspiring to become a vampire, cutting the power. With darkness swallowing the place, Allegro and his vampires began advancing towards the tower. Fine swiftly drove off with Momo in a car as fast as Lightning McQueen, evading gunfire from Nobara's men.
I'm fast as fuck, boy!
The transformed vampire was on their tail, but got struck by a missile and then beheaded by Kubo. With the humans managing to restore some power, Allegro and the vampires were forced to retreat from their advance. Nobara got in touch with her brother, Kubo, who promised to bring back Momo, though he was a bit irritated by the soldiers she had sent, looking like weeb NPCs. Nobara explained she had to send them because of pressure from the deputy commander, but in reality they were just trying to dig up dirt on her. Kubo talked to the team, but they said they couldn't keep tracking Momo with their current vehicles. Kubo decided they should head to the nearby town to seek some help. Meanwhile, Fine had taken Momo to her private villa. She offered her food, but Momo didn't trust Fine and thought she might just be trying to fatten her up to eat her. Classic life hack. Fine wondered why Momo had been singing, but Momo couldn't explain it. She then sat at the piano and played a song, which Momo recognized as the one she had been singing earlier. Fine wanted to dance with Momo, but she refused, still upset about what had happened to Mirena. Fine told her she could take the music box and leave if she wanted, but Momo, feeling like she had nowhere else to go, decided to stay. While exploring the music box, Momo found a picture that mentioned paradise, a place where humans and vampires could create music and vibe together. Meanwhile, in the vampire city, the elders instructed Allegro that he must find and bring back Queen Fine because she was crucial for continuing their bloodline. They told him this was his last chance to redeem himself as the prodigal vampire failure that he was. One night, Momo woke up and explored Fine's villa. She discovered a room with a projector, where she saw footage of a girl running and Fine playing a musical instrument like some kind of 80s music video. Feeling like someone was watching her, Momo started running but eventually collapsed. She woke up in a bathtub and Fine explained she likely had a fever and seemed troubled. Fine then turned on a record player and played a song by a human artist. The song talked about loss and finding solace after being abandoned. Fine once more wondered why Momo had been singing but left her alone to listen to the music. Kubo talked with some vampires who informed him that Fine was probably chilling in a villa up in the mountains. In gratitude, Kubo's men gave blood to the vampires, which puzzled one of the soldiers. He questioned why they were feeding them, and Kubo explained that it was to manage the vampires' cravings for blood, as it was better to meet their needs and gain their cooperation than risk them losing control and hunting humans. If you can't beat them, feed them. Momo found Fine in her garden and was surprised to see her interested in gardening. The name of the anime suddenly makes more sense now. Fine, feeling weak, asked Momo to finish her gardening tasks for the day. When Momo learned that Fine lived alone, she suggested that Fine should find her friends. However, Fine insisted that being alone was safer to prevent others from getting hurt around her. Momo expressed gratitude to Fine for trying to protect Mirena. Later, Momo expressed her desire to sing the song from the makeshift box Spotify for Mirena and asked Fine for help. Fine played the piano while Momo sang, a literal vampire and human band. Meanwhile, Kubo and his group were approaching the villa. He instructed the soldiers not to use their weapons until he gave the order, but they were eager to use them immediately as they were all ready to throw down some smoke.
Yeah, boy.
Similarly, Allegro and his vampires were also nearing the villa and noticed the humans. It was about to be a wild party in there. While Momo continued with her non-bathroom concert, an arrow suddenly flew through the window, hitting Fine in the neck bullseye. Kubo and his group burst in and captured Momo, but she didn't recognize Kubo. Vampires entered through the window, and Kubo's team managed to fight them off. Momo seized the chance to escape, and Fine recovered enough to grab Kubo. As Kubo's men pursued Momo, Kubo stayed to confront Fine in an epic showdown. Meanwhile, Allegro captured Momo, demanding to know Fine's whereabouts. However, seeing Momo reminded him of someone, and he decided to send her to the great beyond. But before he could, Kubo's men intervened and rescued Momo. Outside, soldiers in new armored mech suits battled the vampires. Allegro eventually located Fine and informed her that the elders wanted to speak with her, but she refused to return. Momo hung onto the chandelier like Sia as one of the soldiers blew part of the roof off, causing it to start falling with her. Fine jumped in and saved Momo from the fall, then left her in a shed, giving her the music box and returned to fight Kubo. During the fight, Momo hit Kubo with a car, Fine joined her in the car, and they attempted to hit the road like Lightning McQueen, but the main path was blocked. Fine told Momo to drive off the cliff. They took the plunge and miraculously survived the fall, managing to escape. Curious, Momo asked Fine if there were people after her. Fine confirmed, explaining that some wanted to take away her freedom, but she was determined not to go back to them. With the villa destroyed and nowhere else to go, Momo suggested they search for the paradise mentioned in the picture. Fine insisted that paradise didn't exist, and that looking for paradise was like trying to enter the nether with no obsidian. But Momo argued that Fine must believe in it since she kept the picture and proposed they try to find it together. Fine had no choice but to agree, as Momo gave her some Aria PTSD, but the good kind. Fine and Momo began their journey in their busted wagon, with Fine playing a song from a cassette and inviting Momo to sing along. Momo didn't know the lyrics, but Fine encouraged her to sing from her heart, Average Sophia the First lore. They continued traveling together, visiting different places and enjoying themselves as they knew that wouldn't happen much. While they were eating the delicious soup that Fine made, Fine slowly started craving blood but tried her best to keep it under control. Meanwhile, back in the human town, the deputy commander accused Nobara's daughter of siding with the vampires and fleeing with one of them. He presented evidence in the form of pictures and demanded that Nobara take responsibility for Momo's alleged betrayal and rolling with their ops. Fine and Momo arrived at a vampire checkpoint. She explained that she needed to enter the town to repair their car. They asked about the human in the back and she presented Momo as her blood bag. The dude took her glasses from her and told them that they needed to pay $5,000 and a bottle of blood per person to enter. As Fine paid the entry fee, they informed her that humans were strictly forbidden from entering the island, and once she drained Momo of blood, she must throw her back to the human side like some candy wrapper. The vampires started to drink the blood, and Momo watched in awe of how hungry these creatures were. Approaching the town, Momo realized that humans and vampires didn't live peacefully there. It was the opposite of that paradise they were looking for. Fine confirmed this, explaining that humans controlled the right side of the town while vampires occupied the left, separated by a canal. Humans supplied blood and vampires provided money, living through barter, literal blood money. Fine took them to a hotel she knew and instructed Momo not to leave their room. Momo was amazed by the vampire singers and how good they were when they sang together. As Fine approached the counter, there was a fat man treating himself to a bloody dinner. This man happened to be the hotel owner. When the vampire hotel owner came out, he immediately recognized Fine and created her with so much respect. Apparently, Fine had been there before, and it has been a while since they had met. When he saw Momo, he insisted they couldn't accommodate a human, especially since they were low on blood, which could lead to some very harsh bloodshed. Fine paid him with 4 bottles of blood, persuading him to turn a blind eye. They went upstairs after that, with the vampire a cappella staring at them like they were the main attraction.
A few moments later.
After settling into their room, Momo told Fine that the vampires downstairs were singing a pretty song. Fine told her that singing was essential in a place like that, and was a form of healing for them. She called Momo and asked her if she'd like to play the piano and started teaching her. Momo was rough at first, but Fine encouraged her, telling her that everyone starts that way, and she'd get the hang of it eventually. The music played as peaceful scenes like a vampire boy playing with his dog outside were shown, and the hotel owner gulping down all the blood he had acquired. Kaede asked Kubo why he believed Momo was with a vampire, and he explained that she had been misled, believing in a paradise where humans and vampires could live together happily ever after like some fairy tale. During the night, Fine dreamed of Arya and accidentally dropped her glass, waking Momo. She began to crave blood and nearly lost control, almost attacking Momo before stopping herself just in time. Momo realized Fine needed blood, but there were no more bottles left. She quickly cut her arm and tried to feed Fine, but Fine refused, saying she no longer drank blood. Struggling with her urges, Fine told Momo to return to her mother and forcefully threw her out of the room after trashing the place with her like a human baseball bat. Momo tried going back inside, but Fine asked her not to, telling her that she doesn't want to hurt her. Momo recognized a military facility on the human side and felt they must have blood banks there. She went ninja mode and sneaked away from some vampires who noticed her and managed to escape.
Still fast as fuck, boy. Come get some.
Approaching the facility, her ninja mode wore off as she was spotted by guards. Momo explained she needed blood for her friend, but they drove her off, even firing a bullet at her and threatening that the next bullet wouldn't miss. Undeterred, Momo sneaked inside. She located the blood bank and took some blood, but she was discovered and had to hit the ground running like Sonic. Guards started shooting at her, but she shot back like an all-out Call of Duty game. The shooting caused an explosion that caught Allegro's attention as he spotted Momo running and jumping buildings like Spider-Man when he's out of webs. Meanwhile, the vampires who had spotted Momo followed her trail back to the hotel and decided to search for more humans there. They confronted the owner, demanding all the blood he had. The owner, fearing for his safety, revealed that the vampire with the human was in the last room on the 3rd floor. The vampires resolved to punish the traitor and pushed the owner aside, accidentally knocking over candles and starting a fire as they stormed upstairs. They thought we wouldn't see the Fire Force cameo.
Bruh.
Allegro captured Momo and demanded to know where Fine was. She attempted to shoot him, but he hit her gun away and pointed his spear towards her neck. When she refused to spill the beans, Allegro revealed a past betrayal where a human manipulated Fine's feelings, causing her great pain. Despite Allegro's story and Momo being out in a literal chokehold at spear point, Momo remained loyal to Fine and refused to disclose her whereabouts, citing her promise to learn piano from Fine. In a struggle, Momo broke free from Allegro, causing them both to fall from a building. Meanwhile, vampires searched the hotel for more humans. Failing to find additional blood in Fine's room, they angrily threw Momo's music box into the fire before leaving. As the hotel burned, Fine lay weakened on the ground. Fine saw someone who happened to be Arya, but it was actually Momo, who returned to rescue Fine. She took her to their car and attempted to hit the road, but the hotel owner came back and dragged Momo out of the car, blaming her and Fine for his losses, and insisting there was nowhere for them to run. Leaving the town behind, Momo discovered a small house in the woods where she transfused some blood to Fine. When Fine woke up, Momo asked her not to give up so easily, questioning why she had brought Momo along if she was ready to give in. Overwhelmed with emotion, Momo admitted she felt there was nowhere else for her to go. Fine hugged Momo and apologized for her actions. The next day, they found a boat and continued their journey on rivers and seas, occasionally encountering frozen waters that required them to pull the boat manually. One day, while pulling the boat with Fine sleeping inside, Momo collapsed from exhaustion. She woke up in a cabin and saw a girl alongside a large painting of the picture from the music box. Confused about where she was, the girl explained that this might be the paradise they were seeking all along. Momo woke up in a bed feeling like Sleeping Beauty and met a young vampire named Elisha, who assured her she wouldn't drink her blood. Momo asked about Fine, and Elisha told her she was fine. Of course she was. Momo asked about her whereabouts. Elisha promised to take her to her later. Elisha provided Momo with food and explained that they found them by chance. Momo is the soup and said it was delicious, right before a sheep found her delicious as well. Elisha gave Momo a tour of the village, where humans and vampires coexisted peacefully. She discovered that there was electricity, and as a result of that, they had no shortage of food or blood in there, so they didn't have to fight all the time and lived peacefully together. Momo was amazed by how they were all living in harmony, and Elisha assured her that this place was a paradise. She asked Momo not to look so sullen and smile more. Elisha eventually led Momo to Fine, who was currently staying in an old frozen submarine that had been converted into a hospital facility. Momo met up with Fine and excitedly told her they had found the paradise they were seeking. Suddenly, a section of the submarine opened, and a vampire emerged, pleading to be let out as he couldn't endure having his blood drained anymore. However, he was quickly pushed back and locked away again. Elisha explained that he was a vampire they recently took in who suffered from a blood disease. Alone together, Fine confided in Momo that she found the place strange and unsettling. Meanwhile, Kubo's group reached the town where Fine and Momo had briefly stayed. They talked with the hotel owner, who gave them the picture from the music box but didn't recognize the location. One of the soldiers identified it as Volskaya, a village in the permafrost region. He recalled seeing it in their research materials, explaining that a submarine accident had caused severe environmental contamination, leading to all the villagers' demise. While at a sauna, Fine offered Momo a blade, asking her to use it to defend herself when the time comes for it, but Momo hesitated to accept it. Later, Elisha officially welcomed them both to the village, explaining that despite ongoing conflict between humans and vampires, their community thrived through art and music, which guided people to their haven. The villagers celebrated with drinks and dancing, and Elisha taught Momo how to boogie down like a pro. Outside, Momo expressed gratitude to Fine for helping her reach this place where she felt she could finally be free. She was happy to see so many people who loved music and dancing. Fine tried to say something important, but Elisha interrupted, calling her away. Momo left, and Allegro, who had been eavesdropping on Kubo's group, appeared and remarked on how far Fine had traveled. He reminisced about their youthful adventures sneaking out of town. Allegro urged Fine to return home with him, suggesting that Momo would be fine on her own here. Fine reflected on how she bit Momo and feared she might hinder Momo's happiness. Nobara joined Kubo, who suspected she was only doing so to maintain her status. He speculated that if Momo died, Central Forces wouldn't trouble her anymore. Nobara dismissed traitors as useless and warned of consequences for disobedience. The group then set off, crossing the frozen lake toward the village. The next morning, Momo discovered Fine's blade and a note advising her to use it if necessary. Realizing Fine had left, Momo became worried. Elisha assured her they would find Fine but insisted Momo stay behind due to dangerous melting parts of the lake. Reluctantly, Elisha locked Momo in her room while the villagers searched for Fine. Fine wasn't feeling too fine, pun intended. She grew weaker, making Allegro leave in search of help. Nobara expressed skepticism about the village being a paradise and warned Kubo not to be deceived. Kubo, remembering betrayal by his vampire wife, asserted he wasn't naive anymore and was certain it wasn't paradise. Meanwhile, Momo discovered a hole in the wall and slipped through it, but Hasumi noticed and pursued her. Momo found a sled with an engine, but Elisha shot at it, causing it to explode. Momo survived but was forced to flee into the submarine. Elisha and others followed her inside, cornering her. Just as she was about to be caught, a voice directed her into a small duct, allowing her to elude her pursuers. Following the voice, she encountered the vampire with the blood disease and decided to free him. The vampire explained that they pumped him with blood to harness his regenerative abilities for generating electricity. He had used the pictures of the place to locate the village and revealed that they lured people there with the pictures, using vampires like him for their own ends. Meanwhile, Fine was discovered by the villagers. Elisha shot the vampire, justifying it as a sacrifice for the greater peace of everyone else. Momo escaped, and Elisha pursued her, still offering her a chance to join them and be forgiven. Outside, Kubo's group confronted the villagers, asking for Momo, but they denied knowing anyone by that name. Kubo's suspicion led to tension, prompting the villagers to call for reinforcements. Vampires arrived and attacked Kubo's group, sparking a battle where the soldiers deployed their mechs. In the chaos, the submarine was damaged, starting to flood. Elisha managed to capture Momo, but Momo fought back, stabbing Elisha with Fine's blade. Seizing Elisha's weapon, Momo escaped as Elisha continued to pursue her. Kubo confronted the village elder, who revealed that Momo had fled to the submarine. Elisha caught up to Momo again, but Momo retaliated, shooting her and causing Elisha to fall onto a torpedo, leading to her literally leaving with a blast.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Fine dreamed of her past with Arya and Momo, deeply reflecting on their shared experiences of them looking for a paradise where they could live together in harmony, and how their colleagues forbade such, leading to Arya's death and what seemed to be Momo's. Upon waking up in style inside of a coffin, she flew around searching for Momo and found her in a submerged section of the submarine, where she also found the dead body of the psycho Elisha. Fine rescued Momo, who expressed gratitude for the blade she had given her, telling her that it eventually did come in handy as she had predicted. As Allegro returned with more vampires, Fine took Momo and fled, pursued by both vampires and humans. The chase led them to an old abandoned town, where Fine and Momo managed to briefly evade their pursuers by using the buildings for cover. In a quiet moment, Momo told Fine to take it easy because she didn't want her getting hurt. Suddenly, Kaede shot Fine and she tumbled down from a height. More bullets hit her as she fell. Momo rushed to shield her, but Kubo's guys grabbed Momo. Fine somehow got back up, rescued Momo, and they hid in a building. They ended up at a dead end, and Fine put Momo in a hole, telling her to follow the water to safety outside. Fine tried to block the hole, but Momo wouldn't leave her. Fine promised they would meet again and build a paradise just for them. Momo saw Fine's bleeding wouldn't stop, but then Kubo's crew showed up. Fine pushed Momo away and sealed the hole. With Kaede shooting at her, Fine had no choice but to use the drug. Momo followed the path and eventually found a way out. Allegro caught up with her and asked about Fine, but he became furious upon learning that Fine had used the drug. A soldier from Kubo's group then captured Momo and bragged about capturing her to gain promotions, even stepping on Allegro with his mech. Despite being shot, Allegro managed to tilt the mech, incapacitating the soldier and freeing Momo. As Allegro bled out, he regretted not killing her when he had the chance, but urged Momo to find and save Fine. As Momo rushed off, Allegro apologized to Fine for not being strong enough to protect her. Fine, fully transformed into vampire beast mode, took down Kubo's men first. Then she faced Kubo himself, who was thrilled to see her in her biblically accurate form. They began fighting, and despite Kubo managing to slash her and stab her in the back, Fine continued to battle fiercely. As Kubo was about to deliver a finishing blow, Momo jumped in and rushed to Fine. Kubo warned Momo that Fine wasn't herself anymore, and suddenly Fine attacked Momo, biting her twice. Kubo intervened to save Momo and pinned Fine against the wall. Despite this, Momo refused to give up and continued to struggle against him. Kubo pushed Momo down and lectured her, insisting that the paradise she dreamed of wasn't real. Fine remembered Arya saying similar things, but Momo fired back, telling Kubo not to dictate what was possible for them. She stabbed him in the leg with a piece of glass and continued to battle him fiercely. Kubo mentioned that Momo and he had only been together for a short time. He aimed a gun at Momo, offering to spare her if she returned to Central. However, Momo refused, steadfast in her decision to stay with Fine. Fine managed to break free and attacked Kubo, pinning him down. Kubo resigned himself to his fate, challenging Fine to prove that vampires were nothing but monsters. Before Fine could act, Momo intervened, convincing Fine to let Kubo go. Kubo, seizing the opportunity, retrieved his gun and attempted to shoot Momo, but Fine stepped in the way and took the bullet in her shoulder. Together, Momo and Fine walked away, leaving Kubo to reflect on his wedding day and how he tragically ruined his Twilight movie by accidentally killing his vampire wife. Momo climbed onto Fine's back, and they flew to a hill where Fine led them into a cave. Inside, Fine's beast mode state began to fade, returning mostly to her humanoid form. Fine was in rough shape, and Momo offered her blood, but Fine explained that it was too late for that now. Surrounded by moon azaleas, Fine reminisced nostalgically. She told Momo about Arya, someone she had loved deeply who had accepted her despite being a vampire. Arya had shown her a picture of humans and vampires living together peacefully, teaching her about music and dance. Their love was forbidden, hunted by both humans and vampires. Eventually, Arya was killed, and since then, Fine had lived as if she were already dead. When Fine found Momo, she saw her as a replacement because they looked alike and had similar voices. However, Momo turned out to be strong-willed and much stronger than Fine had initially thought. Fine asked Momo to sing for her and remember the happy memories they had shared together. Shortly after, Fine passed away, leaving Momo in tears. Momo carried Fine's body. Nobara found them and blamed Momo for all the trouble. Momo responded that Nobara didn't understand anything about her or the world. Despite Nobara's anger and threats, Momo continued walking, thanking her for everything but insisting they must live their own lives. Ignoring Nobara's gun, which was probably filled with blanks anyway, Momo buried Fine and sang at her grave. Years later, Momo had a family and lived peacefully among humans and vampires. She gave all the credit to Fine, remembering how she was the one who desired to leave that city and carried her along. And that concludes the epic tale of Momo and Fine's journey through trials and tribulations, love and loss. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more captivating adventures. Leave a comment below about your favorite moment. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep believing in the magic of storytelling. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.